Shalom, Israel. Brother Donald.
Brother Yeshaya.
Another Sabbath lesson today. It won't be before you guys long. We're just going to go over what it means biblically and scripturally to be a Jew, right? I know a lot of people are coming into the faith. A lot of people that are still babes in this truth. And you got a lot of people that are in different religions, denominations and whatnot that try to figure out this whole thing which we speak about in this Bible, right? And they try to dissect this word Jew, and they put a monopoly on Jew, the term Jew, as to sum up all Israelites, and that's just not the case, right? And we're gonna prove that today, that that where this word Jew comes from. The word Jew is a derivative of the word Judah, which is also synonymous with the kingdom of Judah, right? So when we look at the kingdom of Judah, what are we looking at? We're looking at a different kingdom. Well, we're about to go into it, right? So point blank, not all Israelites are Jews, but Jews are Israelites, right? And so what happened around 900 BC was that the kingdom split, right? So you had two kingdoms, the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom, right? So let's go to the book of 1 Kings chapter 11 and verse 34.
This is the book of 1 Kings, the 11th chapter, starting at the 34th verse. And it reads, "Howbeit I will not take the whole kingdom out of his hand, but I will make him prince all the days of his life for David my servant's sake."
So right here it's talking about David's son, I think Jeroboam or Rehoboam. Rehoboam. Yeah. Right.
Jeroboam.
Right. And so he's talking about the kingdom being in his son's hands, right? Mm-hmm. Because we know that at a time, there was a time where we had wicked rulers and we had rulers that followed after their forefather David, right? And so he's saying that this is where initially we see the split of the kingdoms, right? Or the prophecy of the kingdom splitting. So keep reading.
What book is this?
First
Kings 11, starting at verse 34.
And I'm going to start from the top again. "Howbeit I will not take the whole kingdom out of his hand, but I will make him prince all the days of his life for David my servant's sake, whom I chose, because he kept my commandments and my statutes."
Right.
Verse 35, "But I will take the kingdom out of his son's hand, and will give it unto thee, even 10 tribes."
So this is where we see the prophecy of the split, right? Between the righteous kingdom that God's going to put his name in, and then the rest of the 10 tribes, right? Let's go to the book of 1 Kings chapter 12 and 20.
This is 1 Kings, the 12th chapter and the 20th verse.
And this is kind of where this prophecy is going to be fulfilled, right? And this is the next chapter over, right? The splitting of the two kingdoms, all right? And then we're going to put all this together. Keep reading.
"And it came to pass, when all Israel heard that Jeroboam was come again, they sent and called him unto the congregation, and made him king over all Israel."
Over all Israel, right? Keep reading.
"There was none that followed the house of David, but the tribe of Judah only."
So when he was ruling, right, the only ones that was following up these laws, statutes, and commandments was the tribe of Judah, right? So keep reading.
Verse 21, "And when Rehoboam was come to Jerusalem, he assembled all the house of Judah with the tribe of Benjamin, and 180,000 chosen men, which were warriors, to fight against the house of Israel, to bring the kingdom against Rehoboam, the son of Solomon."
Right. So he brought the Judites and the Benjamites together to fight against the wicked tribes, right? And this is where we're gonna see the split. You know what I'm saying? And so when we see the split, we're gonna see the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom, and the southern kingdom is gonna be pretty much the kingdom of Judah, where we see Judah and Benjamin, right? So we got the kings, the tribe of the kings, and we got the tribe of the warriors, which is Judah and Benjamin, right? And side note, right? The word Jew comes from the kingdom of Judah, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why we don't even see the word Jew. The first time we see the word Jew is after this scenario in 2 Kings chapter 16, right? We don't see the term Jew until 2 Kings, because it's making a distinction, right? So now we got the Jews and we got Israel. That's why a lot of times in the Bible you'll see us being referred to as Judah, or you'll see us being referred to as Israel. Israel chiefly were the 10 tribes, and when you ever see Judah, it's just talking about Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, right? Because we know we got Judah, the king tribe, and we got Benjamin, the warriors, but we also needed somebody to carry out the priestly necessities concerning the priesthood. So we needed Levites as well, right? Let's go to the book of Ezra, chapter 1.
This is the book of Ezra, the first chapter. What verse?
Chapter 1, and we can start at verse 2.
Salakia, can I say something about chapter 12?
Right.
This is just a sidebar, but it's a cut to all the Old Testament only people that say, but David's gonna come back, and it's not Yahushua, it's not Jesus coming back, right? Because they take that David is gonna sit on the throne forever as literally David. Because in 1 Kings 12, where we just was in, it mentions Rehoboam, and the people call Rehoboam David, right? Because he's sitting in his father's seat. So this is 1 Kings 12 and 16. So when all Israel saw that the king hearkened not unto them, the people answered the king, saying, what portion have we in David? Neither have we an inheritance in the son of Jesse. To your tents, O Israel. Now see to thine own house, David. And so Israel departed unto their tents. Basically saying, hey, look, we don't have no inheritance with Jesse because we don't come from Judah. So, hey, look, David, they called Rehoboam David and said, hey, worry about yourself, and we're going to seek our own tents as the 10 tribes.
Right? And so just reflecting back on what we've been talking about, a lot of times through the Bible, you'll see these terms where it's with the house of Judah and with the house of Israel, right? And it's not just being redundant. It's saying that it's being, when it refers to the house of Judah, it's referring to the southern kingdom, right? And when it says the house of Israel, right, this is the northern kingdom, right? The southern kingdom would be the Jews, which would be Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, which we're about to prove. And then also you got the northern kingdom, which is called the Israel, also referred to in the Bible as Ephraim, right? And so we go to Jeremiah 31 and 31 just to get an account of this happening, right? If you can read that.
This is the book of Jeremiah, the 31st chapter and the 31st verse. And it reads, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah.
Right. So the house of Israel and the house of Judah. It's not being redundant. It's saying that he's going to make a new covenant with all of Israel, the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom, the house of Judah, which is the Jews, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. And then you got the northern kingdom, the house of Israel. Right. And so that's one account of many. You know what I'm saying? And so let's go to the book of Ezra chapter 1 and let's read verse 2 first.
Ezra, the first chapter and the second verse. Thus saith Cyrus, the king of Persia, the Lord God of heaven hath given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and he hath charged me to build him an house at Jerusalem, which is in Judah.
Right, which is in Judah. Right, so right now we see after we got we're being subjected under the Babylonians, right, and it's time to rebuild our city. Right, we've gotten permission from King Darius, I believe it was, and it's time to rebuild our city. Ezra is charged with this, and he's building up the kingdom of Judah. Let's go to the verse number 3.
Verse 3. Who is there among you of all his people? His God be with him, and let him go up to Jerusalem, which is in Judah, and build the house of the Lord, God of Israel. He is the God which is in Jerusalem.
Right, which is in Jerusalem, right? The house of Judah. You see right here. And so now go to verse 5, and we're going to see who was dwelling in the kingdom of Judah, the southern kingdom, right, that we're about to rebuild.
Jumping down to verse 5. Then rose up the chief of the fathers of Judah and Benjamin, and the priest and the Levites.
Right. So it's who?
The priest, Salakia, starting at verse 5. Then rose up the chief of the fathers of Judah and Benjamin, and the priests.
And the priests, which are who?
And the Levites.
The Levites, right? So we got Judah, Benjamin, and Levi in the southern kingdom, right? These are your actual Jews. So whenever you read and you see the term Jews, it's talking about Judah, Benjamin, Levi, aka the southern kingdom, right? You can finish the verse out.
With all them whose spirit God had raised up to go up to build the house of the Lord, which is in Jerusalem.
right, which is in Jerusalem. And it's talking about building up the southern kingdom, right? I'm going to try to see if I can find one more account in First Esdras where they, to substantiate Judah, Benjamin, and Levi.
First Esdras, looking for like, I think it's starting in, I thought you were talking about 1 and 7.
Right here. We can start at First Esdras 2 and I believe 8.
Oh, 2 and 8. I was thinking about 2 and 2. Bear with us.
Bear with me real quick. Salakia.
Con.
This is perfect, right? Let's read. This is First Esdras chapter 2. Let's read verse 4 first, and then we're gonna skip down to verse 8.
All right. First Esdras, the 2nd chapter and the 4th verse. And commanded me to build him an house at Jerusalem in Jewry.
In Jewry, right? And so he commanded him. He's talking to Ezra, right? And he commanded him to build him a house in Jerusalem in what? Jewry, right? Not jewelry like chains and watches and all that. In Jewry,
J-E-W.
right? Jewry, right? So it's letting you know that what they're about to build is for the Jews. Now let's read in verse 8.
Verse 8, then the chief of the families of Judea of the tribe of Benjamin stood up, the priests also and the Levites, and all they whose mind the Lord had moved to go up and to build an house for the Lord at Jerusalem.
At Jerusalem, right?
And, you want to keep reading?
That should be. Yeah, that should be good.
Come on.
Right? And so we see again, right? Those are in Judea, Benjamin, and Levi, right? So the southern kingdom are your Jews, right? Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. Your northern kingdom are the 10 tribes, the 10 other tribes, right? And so whenever we read the Bible, we have to be textually responsible in knowing what an actual Jew is, right? Because you get a lot of people that'll get confused when you go into the New Testament when it talks about to the Jew first and then the Greeks, right? But even when you read that, right, when you understand that the Jews are just Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, then you understand that leaves room for not just speculation, but knowing that the other Greeks, right, were the ones that are exiled, right? And how do we know that they were exiled? Let's go to
2 Kings 16.
We can go to 2 Kings 16, or we can go. I wanted to get Hosea 1.
Oh, okay. Hosea 1 and 9, 10.
Yeah. That they were exiled, right?
All right. This is the book of Hosea. Salakia. This is the book of Hosea, the 1st chapter, and the 8th verse.
Right, because we know that the people that God said His name was going to be on was going to be in Jerusalem. And that was the southern kingdom, right? The ones that obeyed the law, statutes, and commandments, right? Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, right? But let's read in Hosea.
Matter of fact, I'm going to start at verse 7, and I'm going to jump down to 10.
Con.
But I will have mercy upon the house of Judah, and will save them by the Lord their God, and will not save them by bow, nor by sword, nor by battle, by horses, nor by horsemen. Verse 10, yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered. And it shall come to pass that in a place where it was said unto them, ye are not my people, there it shall be said unto them, ye are the sons of the living God.
Right. So look, so they're not being called God's people, right? Because the Jews are, right? But it's going to be said to them one day that that they are the sons of the living God. You know what I'm saying? So these are two kingdoms kind of coming together. Let's
go read verse 11, because this is another point proven about Judah and Israel.
Go ahead.
Then shall the children of Judah and the children of Israel be gathered together, and appoint themselves one head, and they shall come up out of the land, for great shall be the day of Jezreel.
Con. And that's also why you see is that Isaiah or Ezekiel, where it says that he saw us coming out of the land of the north together, being oppressed together, the land of Israel.
I think that's Ezekiel.
right? Because it's not talking about, oh, there's, you know what I'm saying? He's not bugged out when he says that. It's because there's two parts to being an Israelite, right? You got the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom, right? Let's go to the book of Hebrews chapter 8 and 8 as well, right?
Oh, Salakia. And can I read this Hosea 8 and 8 real quick?
Kind of bring it up.
This is Hosea chapter 8 and verse 8 real quick. And this says, Israel is swallowed up. Now shall they be among the Gentiles as a vessel wherein is no pleasure. So that just goes into what Ak was saying about the northern kingdom kind of being cut off. This is a precept right here saying that Israel, we know that we just got an account where the Jews were referred to as 3 tribes, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, which is considered the southern kingdom. Now, the Israel was referred to as the northern kingdom, which were the 10 tribes. Now, we know that there's only 12 sons, but the 10 tribes are counted because it counts Joseph, even though we know Joseph had 2 children, Ephraim and Manasseh. So just the quick math of that. But this is showing a prophecy that Israel, which will be referred to as the northern kingdom, will be cut off. All right? But you asked me to get Hebrews 8.
Yeah, Hebrews 8. I got it right here.
Oh, okay. So this is the book of Hebrews chapter 8 and verse 8. For finding fault with them, he said, Behold, the days come, said the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah.
Right. So that the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom is this new covenant is going to be made with. Right. And it's important that we both take hold of this covenant. Why? Because a kingdom divided shall not stand. Right. So it's important for us to come back together. Right. So we can stand. You know what I'm saying? And we can rule forever. You know. And so the conclusion is the term Jew is the derivative of the word Judah. Right. Which is also synonymous with the kingdom of Judah. Right. Which we know are Judah, Benjamin, and Levi through the precepts. Right. And then Israel. The house of Judah would be the southern kingdom, and then Israel would be the other 10 tribes, right? So the term Jew is only textually responsible for Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, right? Those are your Jews. When you're reading the Bible, keep that in mind, and it'll save you a lot of confusion, right? Anybody else got anything to add?
I was trying to find this precept that talks about how the Most High will save a light in the tents of Judah for David's sake. And this is how you get the lawgivers. This is how you get the priests. This is how you get the commandments, because that light is the law. So when he says, I'll save a light in the tents or the house of Judah, he's telling you that he loves us so much that he couldn't let us all be cast out. So he had to preserve us by keeping the law in a certain tribe or a certain kingdom so that we wouldn't completely forget who we were.
Right. And also so that he's not made a liar, because he was promised, you know what I'm saying, that he wouldn't forsake us. And so he couldn't just cut all of us off. Right. Why not just cut off the wicked ones until further notice? You know what I'm saying? And so with that, if all hearts are clear, we're going to head to camp. Shabbat Shalom. Study hard, Israel.